Well, hello everyone. It is Friday, the 19th of April, 2024. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This is your status chat. Let's get right into it. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, the big news for this week is Chairman Powell has made some statements, and they've been backed up by several of the regional members of the Fed committee, and they echo the same feeling that inflation is the big bogeyman in the room. It is the biggest thing that we have to tackle. In fact, it looks like we did not get our soft landing, and we did not get what we were looking for. But because they move extremely slow and cautiously, they haven't needed to overcorrect anything, so we don't have to oversteer it back the other direction either. So it looks like we're in a higher for longer kind of pattern. Now, if you watch this show, that's been my opinion that we were going to come to that pretty quickly anyway, because when they first started talking about at least three cuts starting Q3 of 2024, inflation had not hit 2%. It had slowed. We had started having disinflation, which is a reduction at the rate at which it increases, but we're still seeing inflation go, which is different from deflation. Deflation is when prices are falling because the economy is so far down in the potty that they're actually having prices have to be cut significantly. That's deflation when we actually reverse them. We haven't reversed anything. We've just slowed down how fast they were growing, and it looks like we peaked back up. We're starting to go back the other direction. We have now for a couple of months. So I was looking at it. If you watched the show, you know what my opinion is, that it wasn't going to happen. And it didn't happen in the first quarter, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen in the second quarter either. Getting increasing, if you look at the forecast, it's not going to happen in the second quarter at all. And it may not happen in the third quarter. Now they're starting to use such terms as maybe two. Some people are saying possibly one. It all depends. And of course, Chairman Powell liked to remind us that he was correct, and his initial optimism of three cuts was based on if everything was continuing the way it was with inflation. But we didn't. We went the other direction with it. So that's the biggest part. Remember the expression that I use, it's a bad day when the Fed raises rates, and it's a worse day when Fed lowers the rates. So as long as unemployment stays low, and I'm talking about below 5%, I would expect, even if we started to see unemployment and layoffs start to hit, until we start to get up into the fours, that it's not likely to trigger QE, or we start printing the money. Meanwhile, Congress is still spending money like they can print it because they can. And that printing of the money is what's got the economy going so hard, and it's got inflation cranking. So we've got the same situation we've had before. It's just going back the other direction. Inflation is not working to our advantage. If inflation is high, don't expect rates to come down. Now let's look at this center screen. Now here we have the 30-year fixed mortgage rates from Mortgage News Daily. And we're going to look at this where we were going up. We saw we had a little bit of rates coming down, and people did not appreciate that opportunity. A lot of people didn't cash in, and now this is a shrunk scale because it's 6.5 to 7.5. It makes this look bigger than what it is. It really is not that big of an adjustment, but it still was a good time as we were going into winter to have maybe snatched a house if you could. Now we see that we're going back up, and we remember that the blue line, the light blue line, is the Mortgage News daily rate check survey versus the weeklies that we have off of the Freddie Mac and the Mortgage Bankers Association. So we saw that we peaked up 2 days ago at 7.5. We dropped down a little bit. We're back up almost to 7.5 at close of business today. So that's where we sit. Rates look like they're going up on the news that the Fed is starting to get a little more hawkish, and they're going to keep it higher for longer. Meanwhile, while they keep the rates higher for longer, inflation is still making the cost of stuff go up, and houses are built with stuff and filled with stuff. So we're probably not going to see a great deal of price changes in the direction that a lot of buyers would like to see. Sellers would like to see them continue to go up, but they're still growing in most areas. Some areas are slowing down. all real estate is local, all the way down to the neighborhood. So you can't really make a generalized statement unless you specify in terms of the national number, which makes no sense if you're just looking to buy something in Tennessee. So higher for longer. Fed is now indicating, as well as several of the heads of the banks in Atlanta and other areas, they're echoing the same sentiment that we're going to have to keep the rates higher for a longer period of time. That means we're not likely to have a cut. Obviously, in the first quarter, we didn't see one. We didn't see a cut in the second quarter. We may not see one in the third quarter. And as we approach the election, we may get one or two, but we probably won't get a great deal of them as long as inflation is still gaining speed in the positive direction. So they may actually cut one this year or even push it further off. Some people are speculating, and that's what it is, it's speculation, that they might put it off until 2025. So what are we going to do between now and then? Because inflation is going to keep pressure on all the stuff that we need on a daily basis, and we have the increasing likelihood of oil prices going up. Some people are speculating that it might go as high as $100 a barrel, and that pushes that $3.5, $4 type price here locally. And energy costs are bad for inflation. So we may start to gain it on the price of eggs or chicken or pork or something of this nature, which I certainly haven't seen that recede back to 2020 numbers. But let's talk about two terms, disinflation and deflation. Disinflation is when the rate of rise is negative. It's growing, but it's growing slower. And deflation is when we actually have such a bad economic situation that prices are going down, that people are having to lower prices to get inventory and services to move to keep people working, keep things going. Now, which is the bigger bogeyman? Inflation or unemployment? And it looks like unemployment is not a problem, if we can believe the jobs number. And we have seen several get revised further down, but they're still all positive. We haven't seen one go actually negative. And if we go negative, I would expect to hit that 4 or 5% before the Fed looks at it and says it's time to do some QE, to spend some more money for that. They're spending money now, but it doesn't seem to be trickling down into the individual home economies. It seems to be going overseas and all over places, but not necessarily where we need it. So as long as Congress keeps spending money, they're going to keep diluting the dollar, which is going to cause inflation to keep going up. And as long as inflation keeps going up, I don't see that much hope for mortgage rates to really start to tick down in any meaningful way. In fact, we talked about this last week, I believe it was. You're going to have to maybe sit down with a mortgage estimator and put a price in, and then a rate in, and then increase the house price at about 8%, 9%, 10%, and then compare that to what 0.25% on a mortgage rate or 0.5% on a mortgage rate is going to do to that overall price. Because remember, we have PITI, principal, interest, insurance, and taxes. And as long as that value is going up, you know the insurance is going to go up. It's skyrocketing, and we know that taxes are going to eventually go up, although they have a cycle for those. So you know the prices of that mortgage is going to get picked back up. Now we can do some stuff with perhaps some seller incentives, some negotiations. There's still some stuff that can be done, but it all has to get talked about, and it's on a house-by-house basis. Hello, I'm Del Delbert of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. All right, let's wrap this up. Last week, 4/12 of 24, we had 18,912 in the opportunities that increased over the previous period. 4,492 were the under contract still showing. They also increased. The ratio between them, the balance between them, remained the same at 24%. This week, 419 of 24. We also see increases in both of those numbers, 19,345 in the opportunities, and to match it was a 4574 in the under contracts still showing. So that shows that the ratio between those two did not change. So the basic formula of buyers to seller type market hasn't changed week to week, but we're seeing a little bit more volume out there. As we go into the green season, we would kind of expect that. And we see that the people who have to move are moving. The people that have to sell are selling. Those that have to buy are buying. It's just we're trimming off some of the wanting tos. The would-be demand is still there, but it doesn't technically make it demand if you're not able to purchase. Demand is based upon those who are willing and able to make a purchase. So we're seeing demand down a little bit, but desire remains high. So you have some opportunities that you can deal with. You can look at this in terms of, if you're like garage, I've been working in the garage over the past week and to clean it and declutter that. It's particularly important if you're moving from a place that your garage is a storage area versus a vehicle storage area. Some neighborhoods may not allow you to park outside, maybe against the HOA rules to leave your car outside. It may be one of those that for whatever reason they want everybody's cars locked safely inside a garage. And if you have a bunch of stuff that has to have a place, you're either going to find an off-site storage unit or you're going to have to declutter. So right now may be a good time to do that. It's not yet the heat of summer, and it's not unbearable to be in a garage, do some clean out with the dust flying and the stirring the old stuff up that maybe you haven't used in the last 3 years. So it's a great time to do that. Rutherford County, we have 3 major items in the bulk bin. That's all we can take. That's all they'll let us do. So if you're doing a garage, you may find out that it may be, depending on the size, or maybe you've inherited a property and you're having to clean out some stuff. One of my UPS men, Nut, Mr. McNutt, but his route always says Nut, he was talking to me this week. I visited with him. He says they had to go through this process with a father-in-law that's coming to live with them. They're at that stage, and so he had to do a lot of decluttering, and they rented a dumpster and just had to take things off. Now they live in a different county. The rules are a little bit different. And in some cases, it may be easier to hire one of those companies like Junk Be Gone or the ones that advertise on the radio. I have not used them, so I'm not endorsing them, but it may be in a practical sense better to coordinate what you need hauled off and let some professionals haul them off and do your decluttering before it gets too far into the summer, because we're going to be cutting grass on a regular basis. We got to be doing our trimmings and our sidings and our bushes and all that stuff, so it can take a lot of time outside. Now would be a good time to hit that storage area, that attic, clean out those closets that you may have, and just go ahead and get it. If you're frustrated by pricing, the way things are going in the economy, you can use your time productively by doing something that you need to do anyway, which is to go through and start thinning out some of the accumulation. Especially if you're like me, who's been in a home for going on 2 decades, we collect a lot of stuff, especially if you do stuff yourself around the house. It takes tools, takes equipment, takes materials, and we always have residuals that we have to store. So it may be a good time to do that, and I encourage you to do some spring cleaning. We'll see you next week.